That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
Time to go home. No goodbyes, just sneak to the road. I'm spinning around you. You're never bringing me down.
If you're listening out there, we appreciate you tuning in today. My name's Shane. I am from That Sober Guy podcast in Northern California. And we have my buddies Jason, Charlie, and Static here tonight. We're going to talk about being sober for the holidays and what that looks like. Man, such an interesting topic that I know all of us get a lot of questions about. What do you guys do? How do you do that? I didn't mention Charlie and Jason are both of the Way Out podcast. So I've had Charlie on the show before. You may have heard him on there, and that's actually what got us together tonight. And this idea to kind of come together and do this panel setting style of podcast. And we invited Static in. It was awesome. He's also been on the podcast before. Got a great story. And man, we're going to dive into some stuff. We're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to take some questions and comments. So feel free to drop those in the chat as anybody logs in. And we'll kind of keep resetting the group as we go, every 5-10 minutes or so, if any new people pop in or not. We'll see what happens. I guess we're going to kind of kick it off. I'll give a very brief intro of myself, and we'll just go around the horn here. My name's Shane. I've been sober since 2013, September 11th. And, man, it changed my life. Struggled for over 17 years with alcohol. And in addition to that alcohol, there was other substances involved, but alcohol was always at the center of it. And, man, besides my wife and my kids getting sober, man, the best decision I've ever made in my life. Went on to start That Sober Guy podcast and just continue to do my best to serve and not drink today. That's a good way to kick it off, I think. And let me kick it over to Jason and have him intro himself, and then we'll just go around the horn.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Rudine. I'm co-host of the Way Out podcast with Charles down there, and we live in Minnesota in different areas, but we connected quite a few years ago when I was pretty fresh in this thing and just finding my legs in my recovery. And then he wanted to change the format of his podcast about a year or so after that, and he asked me if I wanted to help him with it, and I felt completely unqualified and freaked out. But I was like, could it hurt me? No. Could it hurt someone else? No. Could it possibly benefit me or somebody else? Well, yeah. So I had to say yes. That's what my sponsor told me, and I'm glad I did. It's one of the greatest blessings of my life to be able to do it, to hear all the great different experiences and stories, and just I learned so much from doing the podcast, man. So awesome to meet you fellas, Static and Shane, man. I'm looking forward to this conversation, get to know you guys a little bit better, and just hopefully we have a good time here and it helps somebody,
Yeah, right on, Jason. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here too. We'll kick it off to Static.
Hey everyone, my name's Static, and I'm sober too. That's why I'm here. And so I've been sober since March 9th, 2012, and I had a very exciting life up until that, and I still had one after. I was a professional musician, still am. Got to do lots of great things with music and the band and touring and yada yada. And I'm really grateful that I got sober kind of in the middle of that, because I only stepped back from that life recently. So I got to really experience all the gifts of sobriety while getting to still live my dreams. But the greatest thing that came out of this was dreams I never knew I had. And now I'm 44. I live with the love of my life. I have 2 cats. I have a lease in my name. I know how to clean my air conditioning filters out, because I didn't know that till I was a grown, mature adult at 40 years old, sober. And I'm just really excited to be here with you guys. And Shane and I did his podcast, and we actually hang out in Clubhouse once a week talking about stuff very similar to this. Spiritual Armor is really about our expansion of the spiritual toolkit and just like the practical toolkit of sobriety. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to spending time with you two guys. I haven't met you yet in Minnesota. So we got 3 time zones represented tonight. I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, that's right. Central, East, and West. I love it. Bringing recovery fully across the map.
That's right.
Charlie, how about you, man? Static, thanks, bro.
We got you all covered time zone wise. That was on purpose. So we're that good. My name is Charlie Lavore. I am the creator, host, and producer of the Way Out podcast, along with my amazing co-host, Jason Rudine. And we help people recover out loud, right? I've been sober since December 6th, 2014, and my life has been a journey of a whole lot of miracles since then. It hasn't been perfect, but it has been absolutely worth it. And that's the message of our podcast when we help people recover out loud, that recovery isn't perfect and it takes work, but it is absolutely worth every ounce of the effort. And so we're here today to talk a little recovery and talk about the holidays. The holidays, we're right on the doorstep, really, of the holidays.
Yeah, that's
right?
for sure.
It's true.
And that can be a difficult time for anybody, but especially for us in recovery, and even more if we're newer in recovery. It can be a minefield for a lot of different reasons. Difficult relationships, triggers, and we know, and from my own experience and interviewing so many people in recovery, that feelings and emotions, when they are threatening to be overwhelming, that can be a dangerous place for us. And the holidays are full of those potentially emotional moments. So we're going to talk about some of the things that we can do on a daily basis that can help us get through this time with some sense of joy and serenity, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
Does anybody remember any time specific during the holidays when maybe that you have an instance where something funny happened or you really struggled or anything in particular? I know someone's got to have something.
Before or after? Were we talking in sobriety or like
Right.
out there?
Yeah, well, so I guess to frame it up a little better, we all have the instances of having to go into a setting, whether it be a family setting or a friend setting, a party, something around the holidays. We're getting together, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and everything in between. Yeah. There's a lot going on. So I know, like for me, when I first got sober and quit drinking, it was hard to go into those environments and, you know, and just maintain sometimes, you know, maintain a good attitude, maintain non-awkwardness too. I think that was always one that was big, like not feeling awkward about like, I don't have to explain to you my whole life story why I don't drink alcohol on Christmas. You know what I mean? Like it just is, you know?
Especially new, that first year, I definitely remember that first year. Now, I'm 3 times divorced, right? So I'm on the back end of a 3rd divorce. So, you know, obviously the questions come from those who are brave enough, like, what happened to so-and-so, right? And, right?
I know that.
And so do we gather everybody around to just tell you in one? No, we're going to do this one at a time. Yeah. That's what's going to happen.
Do I need my PA system to announce it?
Right. That would be great if we could just gather you all around and just tell you all at once. But no, they kind of corner you separately. So, what happened? Right. Right. And so you get to give them the Reader's Digest of, you know, while I was still a raging alcoholic and addict, and you know, that didn't work so well for our relationship, right? And now I'm sober, and then, you know, sort of like that sort of reaction or they kind of feel bad for you that you're sober, or there's a myriad of, or it's sometimes congratulations, but it's an uncomfortable conversation, especially the first time around, right?
That's hilarious that somebody would feel bad for somebody because they're sober.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I don't know.
That's
I don't
pretty
think
hilarious.
it's very funny because it makes sense to me. Like if I look back at the way I used to think and live,
Yeah.
and I would feel bad for a motherfucker if they weren't, using. I'd be like, "What is wrong with you? You haven't lived." Like, that would be my mindset.
Yeah, Jason, sober? Oh man, I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah, like you lost a pet or something. Like, oh man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That's
Man, I
funny.
can remember my son was at, because like when I was first getting clean, I went to my brother's house for Christmas, and I wasn't expecting this, but they kind of surprised me. And my ex-wife brought my son there, and I hadn't seen him, and you guys seen him before we started live streaming. This was when he was 4, and he's almost 10 now. But man, I remember I broke down. I had to go downstairs and sit on the bottom step and just cried like hard because I couldn't believe he was there, and it just really, it was a pretty heavy moment for me, and like it was awesome though, and how people were so supportive and even like planning stuff like that behind my back to surprise me. I thought it was pretty cool,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, for me with holidays, I was always very fortunate with my family, because my family doesn't really drink. They're not real drinkers. Like I always joke around and say my mother has been like drinking the same glass of wine at Christmas for the last 20 years. But she always, like, she never finishes it. And like, of course, the alcoholic in me keeps track of every year if she
100%.
drinks it or not. Yeah. And they don't even drink really anything with any oomph to it. They have this obsession with this like pink wine that has like barely any like kick. And of course, I noticed that they're drinking low alcohol content. But what it taught me was like, my family has so much, they're very fun, like loud, Italian and crazy and funny people. And they do it all on their own. So it was kind of a cool gift to like begin a holiday season and being around the family a lot, because when I got sober, I realized how much I missed when I wasn't, because I would take any travel job. And then my priorities started to fall in the line. Sobriety, like, I want to be with my family on the holidays. And they're not really the root of any of I try not to avoid my family. So I realized like these people are crazy. Like they're fun, they're loud, slightly perverted at times. They all play music and nobody's drinking. Yeah. Or they have the same glass of wine every year. So that helped a lot. But like thinking about your first holiday, you said your sober day is December 6th.
It is.
That's actually my birthday, my belly button birthday.
Yeah.
But you were rolling into Christmas on 3 weeks of like
headlong in. Well, and it's funny too, Static, because maybe funny is not the right word, but the reason, the sort of culminating moment of my surrender moment was Thanksgiving, and that was sometimes my oldest son's birthday falls on Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
And long story short, I had promised my third wife that I am going to stay sober for 30 days. So I did that on Marlboros and Resentments, and don't recommend
Marlboro
anyone.
Reds. Were they Reds?
They were Marlboro Reds.
I picture you as a red. Yeah,
you are
red Marlboro.
Cowboy Killers. That's and right. Resentment. So they do not recommend that. And because I was able to do that for 30 days, I convinced her that I'm not an alcoholic. I can drink on Thanksgiving. And so I convinced her to do that. And I never liked to put myself in that box of I'm only going to have a couple, because I knew myself just well enough. I wasn't really ready to surrender to my alcoholism and my addiction, but I knew myself well enough to know that I couldn't hold to, I'm only going to have a couple. But I knew this was so important that I had to. Like, I just had to. I could not get loaded. Everything was riding on it. And boy, I didn't want to get divorced again. Holy moly. And so yeah, go get some alcohol. And I'm like, I'm on it. And I got enough alcohol, get an army drunk. And there's 3 of us. And, my stepmom and dad, very similar. Like, you're going to have 2 and then you're going to switch to water? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I got loaded, right? And I got completely loaded, and I didn't, and every fiber of my being didn't want that. And I almost cut my hand off carving the turkey. And
Oh, damn.
My wife, my third wife, now ex-wife, looked at me and said, "What's wrong with you?" And she wasn't trying to be dramatic or mean. She was really wondering, like, what is wrong with me? Like, what is actually wrong with you? And my son looked at her and looked at me and said, "What do you mean?" It's just Dad. He's just drunk again. And that was that moment, right? And she's like, "You got to go to treatment. Like, you got to go." And so, I go to treatment and I surrender, and everybody say hi to Chubbs, the friendly cat.
Chubbs.
We're working on that being an ironic name. It's not quite ironic yet, but we're working on it.
I think of Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. He gives him the handshake. That's what I first thought of. Chubbs.
Yeah. So coming in then, my sobriety day the last time I drank, and I wasn't trying to get sober. I was just trying not to get divorced. But, ultimately that started my recovery journey. So heading into the holidays headlong, like less than 30 days sober into Christmas, right? Heading for a divorce. Yeah, my life was in complete disarray at that time. And I relied heavily on other folks in 12-step. I relied heavily on just the basic day-to-day tools of the program, right? My higher power being a big part of that. And it got me through. I said acceptance like Rain Man like 400 times a day.
Acceptance.
100%.
Over and over.
100%. Like, I can't control this. I'm just going to accept it. And acceptance is the answer, right?
Yeah.
And every time I recited that acceptance passage, it gave me some peace and got me through. And, it was just like not one day at a time. It was 1 minute at a time. It was 1 hour at a time.
That's awesome. I liked early on too. You painted that. Well, I don't like it. I like it because you're here now and you're sober with us. But you talked about Thanksgiving and you painted the perfect picture of the phenomenon of craving. Yeah. You had all good intention to have 2 drinks and a glass of water. Yeah. But once it hit your lips,
all bets were off. I
Who
had
knows?
no power.
Like, it's a week later.
That's it. Yeah. I was powerless. I was completely and utterly powerless.
It's crazy in that mind. After you've had some experience without drinking for a while, it still can come back and go, well, you're all right. You could probably just have 1 beer. I mean, I could say I've had those thoughts after 8 years. You know what I mean?
The instant forgetter.
Yeah, man. And it's like, as soon as it hits, like you said, as soon as that hits the lip, once it hits your lips, it's so good, as Frank the Tank would say from Old School. Another great movie. But it's true. It's true. And, man, who knows where it goes from there? Shit.
You just painted the other side of it, the mental obsession.
Oh,
there it is.
Yeah,
the qualification of a real alcoholic, phenomenon of craving, mental obsession. My life's a mess even without the alcohol. Great. We have a place for you. I was so relieved. I was so relieved when I finally really felt, I'm a real alcoholic. I mean, that's it. This is awesome. I could get help.
Yes, absolutely. Every relapse I've ever had was a very much, Shane, what you described. And the little voice in my head says, "Hey, Chuck, you've been doing really good. Like, really good. And so maybe you don't really actually need those meetings."
Yeah.
Right? Like, you don't need them because you've been doing so good. And so you skip one because I'm listening to this.
I like how he calls you Chuck. Chuck.
Hey, Chuck.
That's good shit.
And I'm like, maybe you're right. Maybe I'll skip this week's meeting. I skip it and I don't spontaneously combust into a pile of alcohol, right? And then I think, well, maybe, just maybe, it was all a phase. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to drink right now, but maybe it was just a phase. And that's the slippery slope that I go down. And this voice in my head convinces me that actually I wasn't an alcoholic this whole time. And I have to convince myself first so that I can go about convincing anybody that's necessary in my life to convince that it's okay that I drink again. Right? And I go on this campaign to convince myself and other people that it's okay. And that's the insidiousness of the way my alcoholism operates.
And that's how you almost cut your hand off slicing the turkey. You know,
True that.
that's that it all falls into place. And let me just kind of reset this room really quick here. We had a couple people join us. So
cool.
Glad you guys are here.
Welcome.
Thanks for
welcome.
checking it out tonight. And we're just having some fun talking about being sober for the holidays, what that looks like. We'd love to see any comments or questions, so feel free to post those in the chat. There should be a little chat. I believe it's on I think it's on the right-hand side of your screen. It should be up, at least on mine.
Oh, we have a chat too. Look at that.
Yeah. So if you open that, I know we should probably do a little interface thing real quick, or whatever the hell that's called. What's it called again, Static? You're so much better at this part than I am.
With what?
Like, just laying out the room, like where the mic button is, your mute button.
A tutorial
on the side.
I guess it's a tutorial discussing the I guess it's called the GUI of this particular
interface?
software.
The interface. There you go.
Well, I liked having it full screen. I wanted to see everybody. So now it's not full screen. I have the chats.
Well, so I guess we should say then too, I think that's fair enough for all of us. This is my second time using StreamYard, and I think it's for you guys. It's your first logging in. I think Static, you may have used it on someone else's podcast as well.
I've been on it a few times.
It's a great platform, but I'm still learning the navigating around. But anyways,
I have a
comments.
StreamYard
Drop
version.
some comments in there.
Yes.
There's private chat too that nobody else sees, which is cool.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the voice in the head, and it's like a question. Like everybody always talks about, like my disease is doing push-ups in the corner, which is real. Right. But like you started talking about your voice in your head, and somehow I pictured like Beetlejuice, Michael Keaton, like hey Chuck. But I wonder, like, what does everybody view? What is your voice like? I always say like I don't have somebody doing push-ups in the corner. I have like in all those movies when you see a bunch of mercenaries like getting ready to do stuff. There's like there's like the really built woman who's like some badass, like doing like pull-ups over there. And there's like all these guys getting ready, who's loading magazines, who's sharpening a knife. And somehow my dude is always like the kind of quiet big guy who's got the M60 or something belt fed. And he's like working all that. And somehow at the end of that scene, that guy says the thing or does the thing that's like, oh, fuck. And that's my guy. He's like kind of watching everybody else. And he's just going to come in. And but that's like you said, that's why we go to meetings. That's why I listen to others. That's why I help others. That's why I'm around newcomers. That's why when someone goes out, I'm like, I am one of those guys now who's like, what happened? I don't mean to be excited, but I want to know. Right. Because when they tell me that, it's amazing. Like, it's not a long time, but 9.5 years without even like a drink. And I can still, when someone shares, like when it goes awry, I can still feel that endless. Like I was on a runaway train. It's like a feeling I can't explain, and it always goes there. And I've never felt it since. I never felt like I wasn't in sync with the world. So, I've had low days and depression and all other. I'm in more than one program. I'm an alcoholic who's also an adult children, dysfunctional families and alcoholics. I go to therapy because I have ADHD. I have a whole bunch of shit going on, but it doesn't feel that feeling like I don't know. It's like. I always felt like the world is here and I'm slightly behind. It's kind of like Langoliers, that book from Stephen King where they're eating the planet behind you because you're late, but right behind now. Like that's why I always felt like I was right behind now and everything is coming to get me. And I remember those feelings even when I was dry, and it's all gone now. But as soon as someone shares deep about something bad, like or how life was, I'm like, oh yeah, that feeling will get me right here. I'm like, I go, thank you. And then another guy I'm around has been around a long time. He always says, he reminded me of this, and he said it out loud. He goes, someone was qualifying, and they had good sobriety a bunch of years, but they were talking about this one situation that you could see everybody in the Zoom go, like our faces drop. And he goes, man, when you said that, all our faces drop. But I always remember, if you're in here telling us everything's okay now,
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Dude,
So-
and that's why the newcomers are the most important people, because they keep it up here for me. I need it right up front. I can't forget where I came from. I can't forget what happens if I go back out. You know, I can't think that I can play with it, smoke a little weed or have a beer, because I know I'm going to end up with a pile of rocks and a bag of needles. That's just the way it goes for me. And I think it's funny what you said about that guy, because I was picturing my guy. I was trying to think, like, what would my guy look like? I pictured like that really skinny, nerdy looking one that everybody's wondering why the fuck he's in war, but he's like the explosive specialist, and he does just a creepy looking fucker. That would be my
he already did time for like some kind of like computer hacking thing at 15. So he signed into the armed forces because he had to get out of trouble.
Just the guy who is capable of the most destruction ever. This is crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, instant forgetter, keeping it green.
I heard somebody in the room say that he had a Teflon brain, that stuff just doesn't stick for very long. So he has to keep on coming back to keep hearing that truth. He keep hearing people recover out loud so that he could remember the things that he needed to remember in order to stay on the beat, right, and stay connected.
I think
that's a great one.
I think I had shared this in Static and I's clubhouse meeting on Monday, because the same similar topic came up about forgetting. And it kind of relates to, Charlie, what you were talking about. Like, you still go to those meetings. You don't need to go to those meetings. Like, you got to stay consistent. Like, for me, not drinking is just not drinking. It's a lifestyle. It's like how I live my life. It's a part of my everyday, everyday dealings. And I remember when I was in rehab, we had a counselor in there named David, and he was a big dude, and this dude should have died like 50 times over. I mean, the amount of heroin and meth and just stuff this guy had injected into himself, it was unreal that he was still alive. And he was a big dude too, but he would pound his hand on the desk, and he would say, "You will forget." And he just pounded it into our heads like, I don't care. You're going to get out there, back out, and it's going to be, great. And you're going to get a couple years, and then you'll start to forget if you don't stay dialed in and make this thing bigger than just not drinking or not doing drugs. I mean, for me, man, the community, the fellowship, the friends, the connections, that's been such a huge part of me being able to remain somewhat, obviously not drink, but just remain teachable and able to grow and get to know a little bit who Shane Raymer is versus who I had no clue when I just numbed myself out for so long, so, I mean, and this is a good example of it. These connections that allow us to do this, cool live podcast here and just have some fun with it, man. It's just an amazing thing. And I don't have to be hungover tomorrow. I'll actually remember it. Imagine that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did this time entering recovery, December 6, 2014, is I really embraced recovery all in, right? And I remember listening to Joe and Charlie in the beginning, and they were so important and so critical to my early recovery, as were a lot of things. But they just kept saying, run that experiment and do it to the best of your given ability. And it allowed me to really embrace sobriety and recovery as a part of my identity, not something that I didn't do.
Right.
Prior to December 6, 2014, anytime I was sober, it was something I wasn't doing. I'm not doing that anymore. Right? I'm not doing that right now. Right? Recovery and sobriety became very quickly integrated into my identity.
Yeah.
And I got connected with other people who had integrated recovery and sobriety into their identities. Mm-hmm. And for the first time ever, it didn't feel like I was hiding that away. and keeping that under wraps.
Mm-hmm.
I was proud of it. I was proud that I was sober and that I was in recovery. And that felt good.
Yeah.
I like that. I like when you said things you're not doing, because that's a big one for me. Like, there's nothing I don't do anymore. There's a whole bunch of stuff I do.
Absolutely.
It's
You
like,
just said
I did do. I live. Like, when people are like, well, what's it like going to, like, we're talking about the holidays, we're talking about events, and like, you go to the first time going to a wedding, and I tell sponsees or people that are new, and in the beginning I was telling myself, and I still tell myself, I'm like, well, why am I going? It's just like if you read Working with Others in the Big Book, not to be like a thumper, because I'm just in a book study every week because I need to be reminded. Because to be a good sponsor, I feel I need to be in the book.
Absolutely.
It's not my brain, it's the book. But anyway, I was all blown away. Working with others is exactly what I was always thinking. It's this perspective. Do you have a reason for being there? Well, it's my sister's getting married. Well, that's not a drinking event. You're going to see your sister get married. And all these different stepping stones of perspective, all the things like, well, when people go there, what do they do? I'm like, well, they laugh, they carry on, have a good time. They're like, well, why do you have to have alcohol to do that? You could laugh, you could carry on. What could you bring to it? And then how could you be of service to the whole event? And that's like, or to people there. And I was like, wow. And that's the kind of stuff that really grew with me. And the more my program grew, it's like, I live for that. It's like, I'm finally, well, not now, maybe within a few years ago, it's like, I understand when people say the day I stopped drinking or the day I stopped using is the day I started living. Absolutely. And I feel that all the time. It's like, well, why am I doing that? Well, I'm going there to be there. And I had to go to something this weekend that would have been a rough one to go to. It was a old friend and mentor that connected all my friends in the music world and everything in our area. Sadly, his son, lost his life to fentanyl overdose at 24 years old. He's one of us that couldn't get it together, kept trying, right? So I go there with people, and it's a rough thing. But then I got to be around people I haven't been around in a long time, so that was interesting. So me and one of my brother, my closest friend, I was in a band with him for 18 years. We went back to where the studio was. The studio's still there. I just don't go there all the time. And the three of them that were all like family, they're normal people. They could have a few drinks. This is a traumatic day for them. So they decided they were just going to they're having some tequila shots and, kind of saluting people that are gone. And my one bandmate, and she's like my sister, they were around me sober for years in the band. She immediately got cold brew coffee, because she knew the symbolism of what was happening. She's also the most empathic, amazing human on the planet in that sense, because they know I don't care about people drinking around me at all. I was a bartender sober for a few years. It's not about the drinking, but she was so observant of the symbolism of what everybody was doing that she immediately got cold brew and then gave me the cold brew and gave me my glass. Just so, not that we were going to mix up cold brew and tequila. I mean, but you never know. If they kept going, they might mix it up. I wouldn't. But, and I was able to even participate without it. It wasn't like I was fake drinking, because I'm not into this fake drinking world. I'm not into think like fake mocktails I don't want to be judgmental, but if a mocktail is like alcohol, I have no use for it. If that works for you, by all means, enjoy it. But for me, it's like, that's not my ride. I rather just drink coffee. So we participated. I got to participate in something that you would think on face value, I guess that's the Irish funeral is the nickname for it. Yeah. But when people are toasting people, like, you wouldn't be able to participate in that. Or you're the guy with the water bottle, like, which is fine. I'm okay being the guy with the water bottle, but I was like, that was like super awesome. And that does take certain people. You can't just show up to the quote unquote Irish funeral, people you don't know. These are people that, also I had dreadlocks most of my life, hold my dreads when I was puking on the side of the road in different tours. These are people who truly cared about me, and when I got sober, supported me. So I trusted that environment, but it was like, it didn't feel like drinking. It felt like I had my coffee, they were doing it was all about whatever we were celebrating, and I was able to be a part of something that's kind of like, you could say it's teetering, but it's.
Did you have any special bond with anybody? There's like your special dreadlock holder. You're like, man, thanks, bro, for holding my dreads last night.
The dreadlock holders.
You and me.
I gotta say, the dreadlock holders. It's not that nobody wouldn't do it for me, but it was always like whoever was like new in the rotation, because we always had like certain people that stayed in a band and never, we're like Spinal Tap or we're worse than Pearl Jam. There was more drummers, and I would look back and be like, who are you? So it would always be like the new person got stuck with my hair. Which was really funny. Hey, Lila, you visiting? And that was, I do have some fond stories. Years later, I found out one person got sober as well. Yeah. So, and when they had me come speak at their meeting, and I got to tell talk about when she was holding my hair next. We were in Flint, Michigan on a runoff ramp, and now we're both sober. Like, how do you go from not knowing what Four Loko is, drinking too many in the van ride and then puking everywhere, to like now I'm sharing at your meeting? So I mean, sobriety is cool as shit. Nothing's cooler than sobriety to me.
Hell yeah.
Nothing actually is cooler maybe today than if you are going to throw some questions into the right. You are going to win one of 3 limited, and I say limited edition, Way Out podcast mugs. You could put coffee in it. You could put water in it. You could put juice in it. And it would taste.
Just don't. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, true. You could. It's your choice.
You do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know, you grown ass adults. You do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I love it. I would love to see some questions and comments too, and you know, whatever, and anything. Share a question, anything. While we're hopefully dropping some of those, what do you guys think about? And I think this is relative to the holidays. A lot of people drink just for pure social anxiety. They just don't know how to be themselves. They don't know how to be in an environment where, you know, maybe there is there's stress, there's anxiety. They just don't know how to act. And so alcohol is a great lubricant, a great tool, at least it seems like it at the time,
right?
You know, to help loosen up a little bit. So did you guys deal with social anxiety with that, especially coming into the holidays? That's like 2 trains hitting head on, right?
Yeah.
Having to deal with that. What are some tips maybe for people out there who are new or who are going into this season, you know, and really trying to get ahead of the new year? Because we know everybody's coming with the big New Year's resolution coming up. And we want to praise you for that and tell you, hell yes, go with it. But if you can, you know, even jump in sooner, have at it. But what would be some tips from you guys? What are you guys thinking?
Great question. I think it really ties into having a relapse prevention plan too. Have a plan.
I like that.
When you go into these situations that are fraught with emotions and potentially tension and awkwardness, and look, I used alcohol early and often to ease my social anxiety, right? In high school, it allowed me to hit on the girls and stick up to the guys, right? And it was an instant confidence booster. And you know, if you didn't like what I said, I didn't care, right? So, but have a plan. Have a way to get out if it's uncomfortable, if there's something that's going sideways for one reason or another, from an anxiety perspective, inside of you, from an emotional perspective inside of you, or something external that's going on. Have a way out.
Yeah.
So that
drive yourself, you know, don't ride with somebody who's going to be stuck there pounding them and then they're too fucked up to drive. So now, you know, you're screwed unless you can find a ride, and, you know, good luck finding somebody to come pick your ass up on a holiday, right? Because everybody's busy. And then it's like, yeah, you gotta have an escape plan.
Have a way out. See what I did there?
The way out, baby.
That was damn good.
That was good.
I would also add, to agree to all that, because it all fits in the same thing. I'm just going to add to this plan is having things you need. Don't go hungry. If you can handle caffeine, you know, a little caffeine definitely deals with that situation. But I always bring a bag of tricks with me, not tricks to cereal. Even though if that's what works, that works. But I always have things with me. You have a little bit of candy, some snacks, some drinks that you like that are sealed. Like 9.5 years sober, I don't really think about booze anymore. I mean, yes, all of us should think of it at some point. It's what we do with that plan after. Like, I might look over and be like, oh, that looks good. And I go, oh, that's not good for me. That's good for them. And then I go back to my day. But I bring stuff. I always have sealed containers at really crowded events so I don't mess up classes. And that's a big one, is that having that plan that, like, I'm going to be decently fed when I go there. If I need caffeine, I'm going to have things to drink, because if things get weird and nobody's like, I bring for myself. And another one that I remember early in sobriety that helped, and this is what I helped with some sponsees with, that because I definitely dealt with the social anxiety, is, you know, because you feel like you go to the party and everybody's kind of like creepy and they're trying to get buzzed up, and the thing is, like, we should be working past that And a lot of times I tell them, that's why they say, well, this is what they told all of us: show up a little late and leave early. Because once people are kind of going, you're off their radar. They're loud, they're funny. You just walk in loud and funny. I mean, I know it takes a different level of confidence, but sometimes I feel like the place is kind of dim. I would go out and call somebody. I'd call one of you. We would talk. We would laugh. We would have, and I would basically, it's like a warm up. Like you're about to get into the boxing ring. You're doing the warm up. You go in, and now you're going because you're just like laughing, and and then people have no idea. And the other one, when people offer me drinks, that's like, in the beginning, it was like, no. Now they go, what do you want? They go, what do you want to drink? And I just order whatever I want without any pause. Yeah. Yeah. But what I want doesn't happen to have alcohol in it. But if you didn't stop, they don't notice. And when people kind of push, no, I really want to get, oh, no, come on, get a drink. I really want to get you something. Come on, I want to get you something. It's like, you know what? I'll take a hamburger. I started ordering food on people. Yeah. So either what happens is,
that tactic.
Well, if they didn't stop, they proved the point. There's a lot of people who just want to make you comfortable. And the only hospitality they know is to offer a drink because it's kind of common. And it's usually like, no, I'm actually hungry. I'll take a burger. They're like, oh. And then you kind of hit that nerve. They got that grandma, like, I want to feed you thing in them. Or if they get pissed off, and they're not going to do it again.
Yes.
Like, if they do it again, they get pissed off, order lobster. I don't know.
That's
like, shit.
I love the hungry, angry, lonely, tired static. It's a self-care. If we're taking care of ourselves, then I'm less likely to get in a situation where I am at risk. And self-care is extremely important on a daily basis, but especially in times like these. Holidays are hectic and busy, and these things can be, these social and family gatherings can be difficult. So let's take care of our bodies. Let's make sure that we're fed well and that we get good sleep. I am like so a big advocate of good sleep, right? So take care of yourself. And if we're in a good spot from that perspective, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, then those triggers are going to be less apt to sort of get me into a bad spot. But if they do, knowing what that feels like, knowing myself well enough to know when I'm not in a good place is also very important, right? I got to know what my boundaries are.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, its priority is you. Or anybody who's being sober, we're our own priority to be, how much of it can we deal with, and don't overstay, and what's our purpose? I'm going back to working with others again, the big book. What is our purpose for even being there? And if you can't find purpose and you're not spiritually fit, don't go.
Yeah, right. That's good.
But I would say too, to challenge yourself, like, especially if you're really early in recovery, because I think we are, early on, we're still operating under our previous understanding, which is that this is going to suck sober. I have to be lit. I have to be high, or I can't deal with so-and-so. And I'll tell you right now, like, all that stuff in my experience was a lie. Like, I can have fun sober. I can deal with so-and-so sober. I can actually feel better because I had a conversation with that person, and we could finally air out the shit that I've been hanging on to for the last 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, like, being willing to suit up and show up, like, is really big. And, again, if it's going sideways, then, have that escape plan in place. But really, I think a lot of times you'll be pleasantly surprised at how much fun you can have, at how much more, like, we just have twisted perceptions. Maybe you think you got this beef that's so serious with somebody, and it really wasn't even nothing, dude. Yeah. Like, you just talk to them for a minute and it's all squashed, and then you end up having an awesome time. Like,
yeah, most of the time we make up stories in our head, and they're worse than they actually, they were.
Oh, no doubt about it.
I love the pregame aspect too. Pregame, and I think that came up a couple of times in different ways, but just being prepared. Going in, know where you're going. And I think to Static's point, what's your purpose? Do you got a purpose to be there? If you do, awesome. Then be there the time you need to be there. And once that purpose starts, going away, then get the hell out of there and have a ride. Right. I love it. We got a question. I'm gonna post this up here in just a second. I'm on the YouTube stream on my phone too, and I don't see myself how to even add a question on there. So I don't know if anybody knows on there, but I don't. So hopefully that's not an issue for anybody else on there. I just didn't see a place where you can add a comment. But in any case, let's start with this one. This, I believe it's from AJ. It says, how do you guys deal with resentments with family members while at the family event? I love this question. So common. Like,
wow.
It happens so many times. I struggle with putting on a positive face for my niece and nephew while dealing with my sister. So yeah, that's a great one. Who wants to kick it off? Feel free to jump in.
I would love to jump in on this. Nobody loved a resentment more than me. I love to be a good resentment. But in sobriety, in recovery, they're not that helpful. And contrary to what I thought as the truth is, instead of just sort of like trying to bury that resentment down as deep as I possibly could and putting on that face, I would pray for that person if I knew that I was coming up to that event. And this is sage advice from my sponsor. And even if I didn't mean it, I pray for that person over and over and over and over again like Rain Man, until I meant it.
You're basically brainwashing yourself into that.
100%.
Let's just say, I mean, that's and you know what's funny, Charlie, is my sponsor gave the same advice to me and still continues to do so. Man, if you're struggling with somebody, just pray for them. Like, and if you want to help somebody, but you can't, just pray for them. You know, we can really use that to our advantage versus a ladder for me, which is, it sounds like AJ, this may be something for you too, is getting pissed off and really having to white knuckle it and because of anger and stuff. Man, we can't control people, places, things. Static, what's your take, man?
This is an amazing question, because this isn't like, how do you go to a party and like people are drinking around me? This is the real stuff. So AJ, thank you for such a deep question. And if you're in the comments, AJ, you want to expand on what we're talking about, you could, throw a little more in here with us. But that resentment one, and this can come from any point of view. This has come from the people who identify as alcoholics and addicts. This is for people who have resentments because they grew up in alcoholic and addict families. This is for our brothers and sisters in Al-Anon and ACOA, and recovery is all around. Our tools are all the same. We just have different ways, different doors that got us here. And my sponsor taught me the same thing. The resentment is on us as much as even if a logical person, which I'm not, because I'm an alcoholic, I'm not allowed to have logic for my own life. I can have logic for someone else's. Says you have a reason, I can't have a reason, because that reason will kill me. Resentments are my death. Resentments will take me out. Resentments will put me in all the behaviors that will lead me directly to a drink. And a lot of the behaviors on the way could still kill me. So I got to use what my sponsor taught me as well, is pray for them. I go back to purpose, because we're talking about happy faces for nieces and nephews. And if you don't have resentments against your nieces and nephews, and no judgment if you do, that's really what you're there for then. For me, if I knew there was somebody, but there was somebody else I really wanted to see, I got to bring the positive to the people I want to bring the positive to, and then pray for the people where the resentments might lie, and make sure my side of the street is clean. And I don't know where you may be in recovery or in recovery at all, but in the program recovery that I work, I think most of us all said we do here, we learn the tools to deal with resentments. And once we get through all that, it goes away. Because once I find out what's my part in it, I had a great guy explain to me that you should be able to find your part in almost everything that happens, even when something bad happens to you. He's like, say you had a guy saying like, I'm struggling right now, I need a place to sleep on the couch. And your friend's in and out of rehab and he's got some drug problems. You let him sleep on your couch, but you decide to leave your wallet out and he steals your wallet or her. And you're mad at him. And this guy's like, guess what? That's your fault. You set that person up to fail. You know better because you're working this program. So it's just a little bit of like, the more we take responsibility for ourselves and then clear it, the best we could do. Now, does the situation suck? Yeah, it probably does suck. And we don't know any details or whatever. I don't need to know any details, but in the end, if you want to see your nieces and nephews, that's who you're going there for. Whoa, what's that?
Oh,
Oh, that was actually the cat on the other computer. And she hit the space bar, and
That's awesome.
She's startled because she was holding it and then looking for the sound. And I'm like,
Oh,
take your
wow.
hand. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know where I went. The cat
I
got
don't know.
me.
I think I peed myself a little right there, though.
That was heavy. I thought it was like sci-fi movie,
Yeah.
like X
Pretty
minus
sure.
one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, pretty
yeah,
sure
I was gonna turn into an alien. Yeah, Oh, good or bad pee. That's
I
that's
mean,
another
always
thing.
good.
Okay.
If it's sober, it's always good. Let's be real. Okay.
But AJ, you still there? Are you able to interact with us at all? You don't have to. I'm just curious how this whole StreamYard works. We're learning this while you're on.
I'm learning
AJ,
it
you're
too.
our experiment.
Indeed, and I got to tell you, I told my youngest son that I was streaming for the first time. I'm a StreamYard virgin. He says, "Okay, Dad, but whatever you do not watch the YouTube stream at the same time."
Are you doing it? Are you watching?
No, no. I'm afraid to because I think I'll break the internet.
That reminds me like when you would call up like the radio and then you'd be listening to the radio to hear yourself. I think it's a similar concept. It's
a feedback thing. Yeah, you don't want to do it.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I actually do have
Angie.
it on here.
Oh,
we're saying
Angie.
AJ, so it's AJ. Oh, we're sorry. So hi, Angie.
Angie.
Oh, sorry, Angie. That's my bad. See, I think I set us up to fail. Angie, all right, I set us up to fail on that. We're learning together. So thank you so much for the question too, Angie. That was great.
You're chatting now, Angie? We could see it. We could actually see you're chatting.
Now we just got to figure out where you're dropping comments in on.
I see it
in YouTube. Because I still can't find it, but that's okay.
But is YouTube pushing it here? Because that's a YouTube logo.
Yeah, I think YouTube's pushing it in here.
Yeah, so people can stream. People are watching this on YouTube, and then they should be able to drop a comment in on YouTube. But for some reason, for me, I can't find where to drop the
I'm on the live chat on. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Maybe it's because they're on a desktop. Maybe you got to be on a desktop or something.
Cool.
In any case, I know we had a couple of, and feel free, Angie, if you got comments, questions, anything, feel free to jump in anytime. And anyone else watching or listening right now as well, if you'd like to do that, please feel free to jump in the chat. We'd love to conversate, interact. One of the things
Angie, I feel you because I had a resentment with my brother for many, many years prior to recovery and into recovery, and it was wildly uncomfortable. During the holidays, it was prior to me completing my step work, and that prayer really did save me from wanting to choke him at Christmas. So it helps. Is what I'm
God saying. Grant me the serenity to not choke this motherfucker out.
Yeah,
until at least after the turkey.
Exactly. Let's eat at least first. Then I will
choke him docile because they're tired from the tryptophan, so they're docile and easier to
go. Slow motion.
They pass out on the couch. You can go draw all over their face like when we were 16. You know,
put their hand in a cup of warm water.
Did that ever work? I tried that on a buddy one time.
We tried it many times, and I don't think we were ever successful.
You wait until they fall asleep and just punch them in the nuts. That's my brother did that to me when he was a kid.
That's straight to the point right there.
Dude, I woke up and I was like, ran right down the stairs, chased him out in the front yard.
That's funny.
Angie, right on, Angie.
Great.
Yep. I like your sponsor.
Oh, you mentioned something too before we got into the deeper stuff about the going to the event, and we said get there late, leave early. When people ask, because what I realize is if you could just hold on for a little bit while everybody else is drinking, you will automatically become the smartest person in the room. Oh, you're like a wizard Jedi. If you can get like a half hour in, it's just like you're just like a Jedi. You're just like, hey, I don't want to talk to you. Go over there a minute. Someone wants to talk to you. You're like, they're gone. You're like, this is amazing. I'm like, if that just gets you by, that helps. Just like for a minute, you're the smartest person in the room. Whatever. Don't let it go to your ego. Like you're not really a Jedi. You can't tell the cop like, oh, this is not the ticket you want to give. But when people are drunk at a party, you can be like, hey, maybe you should go over there. And they go. It's weird.
Right. Well, then, too, it's like once people start getting sloppy, that's like my cue to
yeah, I'm out.
Purpose.
I actually kind of have
Purpose.
fun talking to them when they're starting to get buzzed and stuff, like, but
In the beginning,
when people start getting
Yeah.
sloppy, then it just starts getting
they're like,
annoying.
hey, Jason, you want to come out on my boat? And you're like, bro, you don't even
I'm out.
have a boat. Like, what's
Yep.
going on?
Yeah.
Or I'll be
Drunk
like, "What? I'm
promises."
sorry, I don't understand what you're saying because it makes no sense.
Yeah. Oh, that's a cool story, bro. You told me it like 3 times already in the 10 minutes we've been here. So I think it's my cue to leave. How about that? That's the worst, dude, when you got to hear the story like over and over. And you're like, dude, you just said that. But at the same time, we have a little compassion, right? Because we've all been there. So I'm like, okay, I always try to balance
No doubt
it out.
about it. All right, y'all. So I'm a huge self-care nerd, as Jason knows. I want to hear a little bit about what each one of you do from a self-care perspective that helps you get through the day-to-day, but also becomes, I think, even more important as we run headlong into the holidays. So Shane, hit me up with your self-care essentials.
All right, self-care essentials. I love it. So there's a few of them, and I think that taking care of myself physically, spiritually, mentally, they all kind of roll together. Static knows this. We talk a lot about this on the clubhouse meeting. I feel like it comes up often, but just a walk in the morning, just a walk early. And we have a mastermind group actually that we meet with on Thursday mornings too. And a few of us dudes that it's a cool little group. And one of the things that came up this week is just like, do you drink? We were talking about morning routines. Actually, do you drink water first thing when you wake up, or do you go right to coffee? Do you do some sort of meditation, some sort of prayer? Do you get some exercise in? For me, the diet thing is kind of up and down. And actually, I just want to point out, Static has been doing an amazing job on that, just crushing it. So good job, brother. Just want to give you a little love on that. It's not easy, dude. That's something big that I struggle with on just especially with kids and living a fast-paced thing. So good stuff. But the day-to-day things, man, they are pretty simple, and it's prayer, meditation, some exercise, gratitude, a huge one. Being grateful for what I do have. It's real easy to look at the shit I don't have, or the shit I didn't get to do, or what happened or what didn't happen. But how about all the things that God's blessed our family with? And let's just start with not having a drink today. I mean, there's a good one right there. When I stay in that mindset, it tends to set me up for success that, in that day. And then if we kind of apply that to the holidays, I think trying to stay consistent in that and trying to have a plan, came up a couple of times. And then I'll end with this, not being hard on myself. I'm not trying to check boxes. I'm trying to do things daily that actually I can handle, I can do, that I want to do. I don't just want to force myself to do things and get overwhelmed and then not do them and then beat myself up for them. Like, I have some days are great, and some days I struggle a little bit and I don't hit it exactly how I want to. But if I can just get a couple minutes in of any of those one things in the day and, try to stay grounded at some point, then I think that's a good place to start for me.
Oh man,
great question too. Thank you, bro.
Absolutely tremendous. Static, hit me up. What's your self-care essentials?
Ooh, self-care essentials. Well, a lot of the program stuff is consistent with me as well. The wake up, pray, meditate. But my start off is water. I don't know when I started really getting into that. It was a little while ago, and as soon as I wake up, 32-ounce mason jar of water. I have to just crush it down. And I realize it really, it's so silly. It's water. It's magical, but it changes so much. Like all the ricks and creeks and everything that's going on, you just start to hydrate. And even if you got you feel like your face is kind of like caving in with the heat on in the winter. It's like you slam the water and you're awake. It's like, and it makes me not want to do anything else. I push, if I do want coffee or tea, I make that like an afternoon thing, like 12 or 1. So I don't want to rush into my day. Either eat a little bit or we go do a walk, not too long, maybe 2-mile walk. And then now it's really picked up a lot. There's a lot of stretching involved. I do a stretching thing for 10 minutes. Then I make my oatmeal. And one thing I always try to do is I try to be very present in all my actions. And everything I do, I try to create a situation where I matter enough. Or like if you're going to toast a bagel, which I can't have because I can't have wheat, but from the freezer, you got a frozen bagel. You're either going to toast it, or you're just going to eat it out of your hand, or you're going to put it on a plate and treat yourself well. So I try to take those little moments and be present in all my little moments. And then lately it's been my diet. It's really changed into a very clean, healthy diet where I'm eating on a schedule every 2 hours. But a lot of my other self-care directly comes from the amazing stuff I learned in the program. I call alcoholics. I go to meetings. I pray. I meditate. I try to help others. How can I be I really try to look for how can I just be a service to somebody else that day. And that's pretty much what it is. I got to get better to sleep stuff. You're mentioning sleep. I'm not a great sleeper. 5 hours normally, 5 to 6, 5, 7. But it's really been about eating right now, being really present. I got diagnosed with ADHD like 6 months ago. I made it 44 years. No one knew. But since my life isn't as extreme as going on the road and stuff, it kind of showed itself. And I'm doing all these things just to make myself shoot straight, because I cannot eat for a day. So, but this is good stuff. Yeah, I love the self-care stuff. It's really important. But this program is self-caring. Recovery is self-care program. The only recovery I know is AA, 12-step, NA, like that world. And really, Lila? Okay. Well, she doesn't care. She's looking at me. I'll be back. Sorry, I don't have a mute. Okay, let me just shut that computer off while she's there. But yes, this is a self-caring program, and I'm gonna take the keyboard with me, sweetie. If you could go step on something else now. And I love how I'm wireless. And you don't see me, and I'm walking by. So this is how to keep this away from the cat. Petting the cats. This sounds really silly. Kira and I interact with the cats a lot, and just. Cats are magical. They really do help a lot. But
they are.
Recovery
they
is
help
self-care.
You be present.
Because they're really present.
Amazing.
They're really present, right, cats? They're crazy present.
Yes. We have 3 of them. And they are present beings. And if we allow ourselves, we could be present with them, right?
Mm-hmm. Like when they're stepping on the keyboard and sending a sci-fi noise throughout a paneled podcast.
Like something off Star Trek or something.
It did.
The laser gun.
It did.
She wasn't startled at all. She wasn't startled. She was holding with full confidence. Like, I'm holding this down. It's beeping, and I'm staring at you. The same creepy stare when she's on the litter box and looks at you. You're like, eh. Anyway, too much TMI. I'm done.
I love it.
Self-care. Yay.
Jason.
Hey, so, man, I don't know, I'm not there yet with the physical fitness piece, but that sounds amazing, and I always really feel convicted when I hear people share about that stuff. And I got to remind myself to Shane's point earlier, about not being too hard on himself when I'm feeling that way. But because it's easy. If I want to, I can find things focus on and beat myself up about. And I got to remember that I'm right where I'm supposed to be in this moment, and that I'm a work in progress, and things have changed, right? But for me, first and foremost, in the morning, obviously, I need my coffee. And then from there, I try to get in touch with God. I usually do that. If I'm on a work day, I listen to this program through the Bible on my way to work. And really listen to the teaching and meditate on that scripture and the teaching behind that day's, message. And then really, I think the biggest thing for me is like what Static said, am I practicing the principles in all my affairs? So when I go, whether I'm going to work or to, a meeting or to Charlie's house or to my mom's place or wherever I'm at, I need to be my authentic self no matter where I'm at. So that means I really I'm just really wherever I'm at, I need to open. I'm open with people about my life, my experience, and I try to keep my focus more on others than it is myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I'm at work, I'm always looking out for my peoples at work, because I'm a lead at the company I work at. So, from day to day, I'm on a different job site and I got a different crew. Most of the time we got a ton of employees, and I try to, even at work, be like, if I see something's up, try to extend the hand, and I just try to be there for people, if I see a need. And conversely, then I ask for help when I need it too. Like, I'm not going to sit there and act like I have to be self-aware. And I think thanks to the program, I am acutely self-aware today. Like, I really know what's going on with me. And if I need a damn meeting or if I need to reach out for support, dude, I'm going to do it. Yeah. But I also know that you gotta be focusing on others too. 90% of the time, if I'm in a position where like I'm just stuck in a rut and I feel like there's no way out of it, that's the solution for me to get out of that rut, out of that funk, is to be of service. And then it's like I forget what the hell my problem was in the first place. So really, I just think it's just carrying that everywhere I go. It is a lifestyle, right, type choice that we make to do recovery. And I take all these things that I learned and I just try to apply them to my day to day. And if I'm doing that, then I feel pretty good, So so far, so good, man.
Absolutely. And all amazing self-care. I'm in on the water, Static. I'm in. I love it. I'm trying that. And maybe it's going to make me not want coffee after that. We'll see. Right? We'll see. But we'll take that one step at a time. Right? But I love the water, so I'm all in on that. For me, it's about being intentional through the things that I do. And I'm very capable of going on autopilot and doing these things in the name of self-care and not being intentional and mindful as I'm in these practices. Right? So prayer and meditation is helpful to me if I am being intentional and mindful in that process. By the way, Static, congratulations on the road to greater wellness from a physical perspective. As a former fat kid, and still, I still have an inner fat kid. Like, that's not easy, right? The other things for me, definitely, I covet sleep. That's important for me. So I have a good sleep routine and I maintain good sleep hygiene. And that really sets me up for the next day to be real. Camille, yes, I walk all the time with my recovery dog, Louie. So that is tremendous, right? And doing things like that from an active standpoint that I love to do. Some people, it's walking like me. I was just born to walk. And some people, it's some other physical activity, right? But maintaining that physical activity as well as staying spiritually connected and being mindful in it. Because again, I can very much just go through the motions and not be present in it. And that does me no good. As Shane said, just check that box. Am I checking boxes?
Yeah.
Right? Or am I being mindful and intentional in the activity? Is it, to Static's point about, am I going to just wolf this thing down, or am I going to have a meaningful meal here that, that means something to me?
It robs us. What I'm hearing is you kind of described that it robs us of being in the moment when we're in that state. And for me, it affects my ability to kind of think about stuff too. It's almost like you feel like a robot sometimes. I'm just going about my
I'm on autopilot.
Yeah, autopilot. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, total autopilot. And the day just seems to go by so fast too when I'm on autopilot. I hate that. And so we're busy. So I mean, we all have lives and families and jobs and all kinds of stuff to do. But I think being in the moment like that, if we can even reset at any time during the day, is a really big point of grounding. Like we did our mastermind meeting Thursday morning, and a friend of ours, Roland, brought a great guest speaker, a friend of his on, And the first thing he did before he kind of, introduced and set the stage for our meeting is he said, "Hey, can we get grounded real quick? Can we get grounded?" I had a really big, like a lot of stuff going on in the week. Hadn't slept much. I was just go, go, go. And when he said that, it was this huge feeling of relief when we sat there for just a couple of minutes and just kind of breathed, sat, let our feet hit the floor, just grounded ourselves and just reset. And it was really a great, time to just sit there and be in the moment for me. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I need to do. I wish I could remember that every second of the day. I guess that's why they call it a practice, right? We got to practice.
Yeah,
it's not just
Indeed.
continuous.
One of the things that I think is self-care too is, and it may not sound like it at first blush, but having fun.
Oh yeah.
In recovery is a form of self-care, right?
It's amazing.
And that's not always super easy for us to do, especially in the beginning. Like everything that we did that I associated with fun was connected to alcohol. How do we have fun in recovery?
Yeah. Well, that one to me is like it's back to what we were talking about before, purpose and perspective. And there's a lot of things that I didn't know I enjoyed until I was sober. Like there was a lot of fun, and it is, but it's also connected to what we're talking about, being intentional. That's a big one for me. And sometimes it's actually part of what is a problem with me, because part of my version of ADHD is I'm hyper focused on everything I'm doing when I'm doing it. I'm like almost too present in that, and you can't get me out of it. But with good recovery and meditation, it becomes like things work. But having fun, it was kind of like we were talking before. If you're around people you care about, there's ways to have fun. Just like I'm more prone to have better conversations at events or parties. And fun is not described, like I have fun doing things I never thought were fun. Like I have a lot of fun, just being aware of other people. I have a lot of fun, talking to my cats, or singing to the cats, or doing silly things with the cats. I notice fun, and fun is like a loaded word, but like one of my things that I think is really fun, if I'm at a supermarket or any place in public, and we try to like meet, you're rushing to the register and there's like somebody's going to beat you there, or you're going to beat them. I basically let the other person always go before me. I don't care if I'm first, because then I have this ability to strike up an interesting conversation, because I had this obsession. Like I think there's just cool people to talk to on lines, but people are always like adversaries on lines. They don't realize that you could be in this together. And this is also an alcoholic mind, because my mom talks to everybody everywhere she goes. She's fine. She's the one that drinks the same glass of wine for the last 20 years. And I like, she's like that. Other fun in recovery is really literal things. I do things I never thought I would do before. When we could go to the movies all the time, I like going to movies. And since I have a weird work schedule, I could go to a movie at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun for me. And maybe this is wrong. I don't think this is like sober breaking wrong, but I would like have my bag with like Pliable or something, or in my bag. And the coolest thing for me is to go see a movie at 11 a.m. with a spread of food that I really want to eat, and nobody's in the theater. You could go to like the premiere of Star Wars at 11 a.m. on the day, like the Friday it comes out. There's 9 people in the giant IMAX theater, and you're there, and you're just like, that's
so when you
fun.
have like a cheese spread, that'd be amazing. Like a cheese tray, like bring that in, and like that would be
the drive-in movie with my sister. She rolls like that. They do the pickup truck thing where they put the 2 lawn chairs and the 2 beach chairs, so you're kind of like leveled seating. And my brother-in-law put a sub in the sound bar in the back of the pickup. So when you go to the drive-in movie, and then she puts the coolers between us, and she's pulling out like Manchego and fig spread. Yeah, my family does food well. I'm really grateful that they're not a drinking family, because when you're sober, you get well fed. Yeah. But yeah, like, what was really fun? I know I'm kind of rambling about this, is I didn't like theme parks. I never liked theme parks. It wasn't my thing. But this summer I got to go with Kira, and she's got these little cousins that are like 6 and 8 maybe. and they were so stoked to go to this Universal theme park. And I was like kind of dreading it. Shane and I were doing one of our clubhouses while I was driving into Universal.
That's right.
And I was saying to myself, well, first of all, recovery taught me is who else is going to have fun? So I focused on the children, right? Sure enough, you get me in Universal, I'm a little kid. I'm having a blast. I'm running around Harry Potter world with a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. I know nothing about Harry Potter at this point. I found out what house I belonged to. I was so ecstatic about it. And it's like, if I was drunk, I wouldn't have that kind of fun. I wouldn't think about life through the eyes of a child.
It's
and
that
the pure
childlike
joy.
faith, that childlike spirit, it really does come back out when we sober up.
No
Dude,
doubt
I
about
love
it.
that.
Yeah.
It's like what I was saying earlier, like you might think that it's going to go one way, but if you suit up and show up, it's like a completely different experience.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
No doubt. We can find, like that guy said in the comments, we can find new things that we didn't do or couldn't do prior to recovery, and really embrace those new activities. Hiking is a huge thing that I embraced in recovery, and it was always in me. I always liked walking, but now I get to go on hikes with my girlfriend, and we get to go to these really cool places and see these really cool spots. And so finding these things that,
like axe throwing.
Yeah, like axe throwing.
Can you imagine?
Probably better sober. Yeah, probably a good sober hobby. I'm proud of you, that guy, that it's sober you're doing this now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That is a good idea. But we can have fun in the small things too, and that's the one thing. It always had to be all or nothing for me.
Yeah.
All or nothing. It had to be spectacular or it was terrible.
Yeah.
And in recovery, I've learned to appreciate the humor and the fun and the small things in life. My cats and dogs are hilarious. I mean, they're hilarious, right? Because I pay attention to them.
Exactly.
Yes.
I pay attention. I never even had the only pet I ever had prior to getting sober was a cat, and I lost him, right? And so because I wasn't paying attention, that's why, right? So now I get to pay attention to these crazy, quirky little animals that have these distinct little personalities, and it's great. We have a ball, right? And I know it's nerdy, and I know, but it's fun. And
it's awesome.
dang it, I think it's great.
It's genuine, it's genuine too. That's what's great. And you reminded me when you said all or nothing. I remember very clearly, of quite a few times. I think I mentioned this, alcohol always the main thing, but there was other substances, and there was a lot of white powdery substances that came into play at times. And I can remember my wife saying, well, can't you just save that for another time? And you're like, save it? What are you, crazy? Like, what's wrong with you? I'm staying up all night, so this shit's gone, and then I'll try to pass out, which probably won't happen. But no way. I can't just it's pedal to the metal,
No doubt.
And I think a lot of people roll like that, and I'm grateful that I'm still here, number one. But get to recognize those things and put them into simpler terms these days, a little easier. You want to take that question there, Charlie? Do you see that come up?
Kamel, that's a great question. Thanks for putting
it's an awesome question.
Amazing question. Somebody in early recovery or even long-term, right? Don't have family to go visit during the holidays. And, loneliness and isolation is really tough because we are social beings. And when we associate the holidays with being connected with others, it can feel especially painful and acute not connecting with those in recovery from a family perspective. But that's how connecting to a tribe in your recovery can be so important, right? So get plugged into your local recovery community.
Yep.
There's tons of stuff going on, especially during the holidays, to get you connected. Right.
Yep. And you're not going to want to go, but go.
Go. Exactly.
Yep.
Go.
Just go.
That's one of those things where ignore the not want to and just go.
Yep.
Because you're going to meet some really amazing people, and you will connect to others that are experiencing the same things you are. That maybe there's some stuff going on from a family perspective that leaves you disconnected for whatever reason might be, death or, estrangement, and get connected to the folks in your local recovery community. And that could be a huge deal, right? And make all the difference.
Totally. Yeah.
That's amazing advice. And the more you connect with people in your recovery programs, like they have organized things. Like I used to help with alkathons, like every Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, like different home groups will host a place for people to go on the holidays for like, it's like a huge, or sober dances is another more universal term for them. But they would just have these awesome parties, like all this food, because you have a lot of people in recovery doing it. So they care about the food, they care about the music, they care about the togetherness. But then when you make good friends, I don't know anybody right now that's in like working, like has a bunch of people in their recovery life that's alone on holidays. Because the first thing I check with, I think people are like, oh, they might not have anywhere to go. Like, what are you doing on the holidays? Like a lot of us will check in on each other. And my friend Buddha does that a lot. He's an older guy and he's funny. He's like, yeah, best thing I ever got is a Sponsy Frank. He's Italian. Christmas is great. I was like, oh my God.
Hell yeah.
he goes, I guess in New York, Italians, Christmas, they kind of go big,
It's awesome.
The other thing I would say is be of service
people
in these. Oh, sorry, Jason. The other thing I was going to say is be of service in these events, because a lot of times, especially in early recovery, man, I was awkward and I didn't have anybody to go with right away. And that's a tough spot to be in, to just show up, be like, hey, But to be of service and when I had a job and I had a purpose and I had a role to be there, I didn't feel like I was going there alone because I was working with other people that were also being of service. And then I was meeting these people that were also being of service, probably for a lot of the same reasons I was. And we bonded over the work and over being of service. And then I met people that came. So a great way to, sort of ease yourself into these recovery sober events is, volunteer, be of service.
That's smart. That's really good. Then you have a purpose for being there.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, I was just gonna say something about like that. I know some people actually, because they see that need, they'll like throw a thing at their house and just invite whoever, and they'll call it like a Friendsgiving,
Absolutely.
instead of Thanksgiving,
if you don't have anywhere to go, come here, right?
Yeah. So because of that point, I was just going to challenge you too, that maybe, if you see the need, then maybe that's something you need to do, is throw your own friends, start your own thing for the people that you see.
Friendsgiving.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because sometimes maybe it's just that nobody's stepping up to the plate to do the thing that you see that needs to be done, and the people that need it, right? So if that's the case, maybe you should give it a try, or try to be the one that brings that conversation up, and start that new trend.
Yeah,
I know for me in the having fun department, dude, I was thinking about that, and I was like, I remember when I was first getting clean, right? I never had no money. I never had no money to go out to fellowship after or whatever, but somebody always would buy me some food or buy me a pop and give me a ride. And boy, I felt awkward as hell at first. I didn't know them real good. But I'll tell you what, right now, like I realized is these people in recovery they're sick and twisted just like me. So we have the craziest conversations and laugh harder than hell. And then I was literally like, my cheeks would hurt. Like I was laughing so hard that I ain't never laughed that hard since forever, like since as far as I could remember, you know what I mean? It's just nuts how you connect on these weird levels, and then everybody's kind of like,
oh yeah, absolutely. You're your brother from another mother, right? Like that's
so
just
cool.
the deal.
I love it too, because for so long we were selfish, and then someone shows you a little bit of love like that and buys you something to drink or something to eat, and you just kind of kick it for a little bit of coffee. And maybe like you were saying, Jason, it doesn't really make sense at the time. You're like, what the hell is this? Like this, you don't want anything from me? You're just gonna buy me something to drink? It's kind of weird at first. Yeah, what's the catch? Yeah, what's in it? Because that's how our minds have worked for so long, And then when that moment goes off, like you described, like where you're like, oh man, it kind of makes sense, and then you get to turn around and go do that for somebody else, man, that is practicing the principles in all our affairs. Like no matter what situation or paying it forward. Exactly, man. I love that, dude. And it's like you're gonna go do some shit for somebody out of the goodness because you want to serve, not because you have expectations either. And then it's just this big circle that maybe that's the fellowship, it's beautiful. Right there.
And to paying it forward, you were hitting on that a little bit before, the direct one about buying people food or something to drink was when you're saying if you feel a need for a party, when we were talking to Camille, it's like you got to throw the party then. And it's like, I'm not saying you have to do that, Camille, but it's like when we're in recovery and we're doing this and we're really turning it over and listening to the suggestions of other people, that's the thing you start to adapt is like, well, if I thought of it, I got to do it. Because you're helping somebody else. So a lot of people might want to do it, like you said, but then somebody needs to step forward and be the one. And if you're thinking someone needs to be the one, that means you got to be the one. And not to be silly, that's kind of like Billy Madison where he pees his pants to make everybody feel okay in the movie. Like we're all cool now because we peed our pants. I know it's a weird example, but you mentioned pee earlier, so I had to go bring back
example.
But that's the thing is we're all united now, and it's like be the change that you want to see.
And those are those higher power moments, right? Where when we're connected, we're listening to our higher power, and we are presented with myriad opportunities to be of service and show up with love and kindness to our brothers and sisters in and out of recovery.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. Service for all.
Absolutely. So, hey, Camille, Angie, that guy, if you hit me up on Insta and find and let me know how to get these amazing mugs to you, I will do that, right? So hit me up. You get a mug, okay? You win. You're winner.
Congratulations. Dude, honestly, you guys, I have been wanting to interact with these people in this chat. I can't even figure out how to respond to it.
So you can't.
I was just going to ask, Static, did you go on YouTube and respond, or
I went on YouTube. That's why I accidentally almost put the audio back in here. I almost pulled the radio move. But I'm on YouTube. I paused the YouTube, and I could see the chat roll by, but I could respond to the chat because right now is it Dope Snare. Said they just celebrated 2 years, but if I wanted to type it in, I'm going to type in through YouTube. Shane, you might have different access because you're hosting the room.
I do. So, and you guys can see the question or just celebrated 2 years from Dope Snare right now, right? You guys.
We should focus on that for a second. Not to cut us off.
Can we?
2 years. 2 years. Dope Snare. Today-ish. Do you want to sing like? I mean, I'm from the East Coast. We celebrate. We call them anniversaries. But now with Zoom, I'm from all coasts on recovery. And part of it is singing really badly for people when they get a year.
I'm in. I'm all
you guys
in.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Ready? Dope Snare, this is for you. Ready? Ready. Key of no.
All right.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dope Snare.
Dope Snare.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, that was terrible. Great job. Absolutely.
They say that's an honor on the West Coast. I'm still trying to learn about it being from the East Coast. So that's Dope Snare. Like, or is this like you're into like really good snare drums, or are we snaring animals in the backyard? Here's a beat machine
on the logo.
Horrible
there, the Dope Snare.
And I'm thinking about how you make a snare to trap small animals when you're hungry.
Like the animal's been ensnared.
Is it spelt different? That kind of snare?
Whoops.
Oh, I hear myself. You did what I did to you. It went right back.
See, I couldn't, when I logged into YouTube, I couldn't even get the comments to come up, but I think it's a setting. You have to open up a setting to do the live chat. So that's something I'll have to probably go do back in. I'm glad you guys could see it though.
Mine's on. I have it. Horrible. I'll take it. That's great. Beats. So you're not trapping muskrats
He's not
or rabbits.
Ensnaring animals.
He says beats.
Yeah. Excellent.
And the thing is, no one would expect a guy from New Jersey who lives like 25 minutes from Manhattan to even know about trapping and things like that. I'm kind of an odd anomaly for this area.
Respect from Minnesota. Respect, you know.
Mad respect. Yeah. Well, shit.
So Dope Snare, 2 years. When's the date? When's your date, Dope Snare? When's your sober date?
Drop it.
I love that we have, by the way, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, Minnesota, California, Dope Snare, that guy, Angie. We're not sure where you're from, but if you want to drop him in there, it's always cool to see too.
Yeah, it is.
November 4th. Nice.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
congratulations, brother.
Hell yeah.
November 4th, 2019. 2 years.
Sweet.
A lot of miracles, man. That's a lot of miracles.
Wisconsin, is that WI?
Angie, yeah, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Good,
Wisconsin.
okay.
Wisconsin represent. That's where my girlfriend grew up, born and raised in Wisconsin. And so I have a lot of love for Wisconsin.
Never been. Green Bay, though, right? Green Bay Packers.
Green
That's
Bay.
The cheese. That's the first thing I think of when I think of Wisconsin.
And I'm a huge Vikings fan. My girlfriend's a big Packers fan. So we like each other 363 days a year.
You guys share a
great
border,
rivalry.
right? Wisconsin and Minnesota have a border.
Yeah.
We do.
It's like Braveheart. Oh,
My first time in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois on tour was when I just joined the band, and we went out on an acoustic run in early February.
Yeah. Oh,
That's an experience. Even coming from New Jersey, where we have winter, we don't have that kind of winter. And I remember we're driving, and I look at my bandmate and I go, "Why are all those cars parked on the field out there?" He's like, "Dude, that's a lake. They're fishing." He didn't say dude. He's not a dude guy. He's a bro. We're bro guys. He's like, "Bro, that's a lake, man. They're out there fishing because that's how cold it is." It's like, what?
I have a good friend from Georgia, and he always says, "Brother, the lakes freeze solid where you live, and that's just not okay." You know? If your car breaks down far enough away from the gas station, you could die in the winter. That's life and death here in Minnesota, right?
Denver,
us California folk out here, we're like, "Oh, it's 65. Grab your jacket. It's cold out."
Really?
Dude, I'd be wearing
like,
shorts, bro.
We're wearing shorts. It's hot.
I would be wearing shorts.
It's crazy, man. And I'm down south right now before we head back up north. And today, in mid-November, it was 86 degrees today. Unbelievable. I mean, that was like abnormally hot today, but I'm talking 8 in the morning. It was like the middle of August here.
That's
it's
crazy.
November. Yeah, it's super crazy, but it does dip down a little bit. It has been lately into the 60s, and everyone here's like, "Oh, it's cold." And then it rains, and nobody knows how to drive because you got a little rain. A little different than Wisconsin and Minnesota, and probably even Jersey as well.
Just a little bit.
Jersey, we learn about winter. We just don't have it as long, and maybe it doesn't plummet into sub-zero as
deep Arctic.
That guy in Denver.
Yeah.
Denver, Colorado. We got Denver, Colorado.
Mile high.
Every time I've been to Colorado, I almost didn't leave. I love Colorado. It's a great place.
Mm-hmm. We got snow today too, Angie. We did too, a little bit, but same thing. Melted right away.
Yeah.
So just a quick little time.
It's a nuisance
check
snow.
Here. It's 6:30 my time, 9:30.
Yeah.
I think you got how what's the time check? You guys want to go until 7, or you want to go to the hour? Or what do you guys?
Whatever.
Okay. We can go to the hour if you want.
Yeah, let's go till 7. We'll just plan on that, and I'll give us a time check about 5 till, and then we can start to wrap it up.
Sweet.
All right.
I'm just checking these comments again to make sure I'm not missing questions.
I love it. Yeah, I love getting some comments and questions. This is fun, man. This is really cool.
And one of the things that we talk about, you guys, we talk about winter, and we talk about how crazy winters in Minnesota and Wisconsin get. One of the things that's really hard is we don't get a lot of light in the winter, and that can really affect your mood. Right. And many people in the Midwest, especially upper Midwest, Minnesota, but everywhere, can suffer from seasonal depression and seasonal affective disorder, which, combined with the holidays and post-holiday sort of glum, that could be a difficult deal, right? And to navigate. So maybe you guys have some experience around managing and dealing with some of that winter blues and seasonal depression, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I know that early in my recovery, and then before I ever found recovery, it's when I had burned so many bridges, like nobody would, like I was always alone on the holidays for quite a few years, and man, it was like my life was lonely, dude. Don't get me wrong, my life was. but for some reason you have this new layer of like, I'm supposed to have loved ones, right? Or I'm supposed to. So now you're like shooting all over yourself about what you should have as opposed to what you do have. And you start feeling sorry for yourself and sit in the pity pot. And so it would really, like, the holidays would really magnify my already negative feelings. And then when I first started getting clean, it was like I put some time together. I was starting to struggle with like feelings of entitlement, like people should be forgiving me and thinking that, everything should be hunky dory because I was clean for a little bit, and unfortunately that was just part of the process in the beginning. I had to make, but that goes back to what we were just talking about too, with the, if you don't have somewhere to go for the holidays type thing, like that's where that recovery community really saved my butt. They got in, like, I created my own family. I created my own, network of people that I was able to celebrate those things with. So I didn't have to be alone. And then I would listen to their stories, which took me out of my own head, my own little personal narrative, my own like pity pot story that I was telling myself. So win-win,
Absolutely. I think about when we're dealing with these kinds of external factors that, this seasonal depression that certainly I suffer from, right? And if we're layering on some, difficult things with holidays, I really think getting rooted in the dimensions of wellness, like, am I, putting money in the bank from these different dimensions of wellness, my spiritual wellness, my physical wellness, my emotional wellness. For me, therapy was really, really critical for me early on for a variety of reasons. Some trauma and some mental health stuff. And I really got some really great tools coming out of that to be able to move through some of those difficult times. Again, especially in the winter when I tend to feel down more and I tend to feel a little bit more blue. And I can use these things to help, get through that. One of those things that Shane talked about on the top was being kind to myself and just understanding, like you said, Jason, I should feel better than this. I should be happier than this. I should, I should just be a ball of, joy 24/7, right? That's not realistic. It's not. And we're going to go, we're going to have these ebbs and flows. Now, my experience has been they've mellowed out more the longer I'm in recovery. But that doesn't mean that I don't have lows, and I can reach back into my toolkit from a wellness perspective to help me move through that with some self-grace and self-forgiveness, knowing that I'm not going to be Mr. Chipper all the time. Sometimes I'm going to feel a little down, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's a heavy one. I mean, it's a great thing to think about, because seasonal depression is real. Some people get affected more than others. And even when you don't think you get affected, I'm starting to learn that, there is the importance of sunlight, because by nature, I'm a very nocturnal person, especially being in the music industry all this time. I was perfectly designed for it. I'm great at night. I'm up at night. I like darkness. Not like, ooh, I like darkness. I just like the dark. And
I like that.
I could be inside for a really long amount of time and very occupied, like working on stuff. And I can't discount the importance of getting just the sun into your skin. And Kira that I've been living with for a long time, she really is heavily, like, momentarily affected by seasonal depression and not getting sunlight. She's got to go out every day and be in the sun. And now the other side of it, I have all these, I'm a very ritual-based kind of person. I have no problem saying I've pretty much been I'm like a witch in many ways. But because I like ritual, I like things to have little packages that go with it. So usually when it starts getting really gray, we're getting into gray life. And I've also been very fortunate to experience almost world travel as a musician. I'll do something the first gray, cold, rainy day. I'll immediately just start making tea. like English tea that I like, either Yorkshire Gold or PG Tips, like a little bit legit English people drink. I might crank like a Smith's record or something, and just go full on, like drink out of my Doctor Who teacup. Like I'll adopt like a whole, like, we're in the UK now. This is going to be like UK time, and I'm getting to that zone and love my hoodie and my denim. And in the winter, part of the reason, the Christmas tree is from the Nordic cultures. It's from Norse folklore. It's bring an evergreen tree into your house when the world looks dead, because the evergreen stays green the whole time. The Yule log was a way of making a long burning log to keep you warm. This is all pre-Christmas. It's not knocking. It's a great borrow. If you love Christmas and you're a Christian, amazing. And this is where it's borrowed from, because it helps. And so I decorate with I do a lot of colored lighting as it is. So I like to have all lights that I can control. And I just try to make the environment as warm as possible in the winter, to the point where you can literally look at the snow falling outside with the warm lighting and the right tea, and just say, like, and then if you are lucky enough, I'm super grateful. I have a place to live. It's not big, but I could cook food. I could make things warm. And then seasonal cooking. This is back to health and wellness. We're meant to eat seasonally. So in the winter, you got to make warmer, heartier food. And if you don't cook, just get it. But like root vegetables, like it's really to start studying what people would do in those regions at those times. And it does help a lot with that. And yet some people say they get a sun lamp too.
So
if you're really up there.
I have a question since we're on this topic, and if anyone feels like they'd like to answer this, when you mentioned the Smiths, I love music, so that's how it came up. If I had to pick, like on those gloomy days, and I got to be careful. My wife will always remind me, like, what is your go-to music that you're going to put on? For me, it's Portishead, and my wife will like just go, "What?" She'll give me a little. Not that she doesn't like Portishead, but she knows it's just in this. There's a certain mood and a way it's got to be. What about for you guys?
Oh, dude, I love you now, because that's my shit. But I was thinking, if I'm thinking more like depressed, like if I'm, because I don't know, I was thinking about like sometimes when I'm depressed, I just, because Static was talking about just going into this one zone, right? Like for me, that reminded me of like when I get depressed, sometimes I just have to, and I learned this in therapy, I have to like be able to just sit in that feeling, right? And like experience it so that I can move through it, right? But if I'm in that zone, The Cure, Wish, and about 20 candles, and I'll just cry a lot.
Jason's up there crying, listening to some.
That's pretty much what you do with The Cure.
It is what you do with The Cure.
Red lighting, the whole thing.
What about Charlie, Static? And then let's follow this up with, just to leave it on a high note, what about some motivating type of stuff afterwards? But let's stick. I want to hear you guys.
All right. So if I'm blue and I'm down and I'm just in it, and I'm just gonna sit in it and just. I think that's a form of acceptance, by the way, if I allow myself to sit in it and feel it, right? Instead of trying to eject out of it all the time. Sit in it and feel it. It's radio. It's absolutely Radiohead for me when I'm in that mood.
I'll go with the sit in it. That was a great lesson I learned as well, because I look at, if I'm in a feeling, if I fight it, I don't progress. If I jump in it like a train car, I go on a ride with it and hopefully get to my destination. Music when I'm down, that's a funny one, because I usually, if I'm feeling down and I'm in it, since I'm the person who spent most of my life creating music, and the band I was in and the kind of sound I have is resembling of Depeche Mode and The Cure and darker stuff like that, and we use it as a filter to bring light, I won't gravitate towards that in sobriety. When I wasn't sober and I wanted to fucking be in it the wrong way, I would do that. I would like light it all up, but I'll try to push myself away from it. And I want something with a little more of a groove. So if I'm like kind of down, it's usually towards anger, I'll go heavier with music. But most of the time, if I'm feeling like I need to kind of have that, I don't want to use the word opiate, not the right place for that, but that kind of serene feeling, I'll go with really old records like Edith Piaf, old Dean Martin, like just kind of croonery. that I'll get into that zone a lot, because that's not where, because I won't bring the stuff that I love into my downer. I do love that stuff, but I won't go down with that.
That makes sense. You separate it.
I like it.
Or I'll jump right out of it. And you put on like Freedom from he died recently too. It was awful. The lead singer of Wham.
I'm not
George Michael.
Oh, dude,
I have all these songs
favorite
to put you in a good mood. Like I have a good mood list for that.
Oh yeah.
This song, because I'm big into Christmas, right? I already started listening to Christmas music.
Oh,
and,
he's
what's that?
Right on.
you're that guy. You're that guy.
I love it. I just love it. Love
Yeah,
the
November
Christmas music.
1st, you were cranking it, right?
Yeah,
you had your Santa hat on.
That's right. And there's a song by Wham, and it reminds me of like
Last
when
Christmas.
I used to work in an old department store, because it's just that Christmas song. So okay, so speaking of that, let me bring this next one up. What music motivates you or brings positivity to you? What music motivates you or brings positivity to you? We said the down. What's the up?
Right.
I'm gonna jump on this one. Motivate for me is like, it's always, to me, it's like this like X-Wing Jedi mode. So that's usually one of them. My favorite one is to put on the Ultra record from Depeche Mode. And there's something about the way they lock in the groove to the ambience, because they could be serious, it could be solemn, but Depeche Mode really focuses on that pocket and groove in their solemn music. So I look at it as being more like meditative and focused music.
Wow.
I'll jump in. I love some reggae, and I'll go all down different tracks from Peter Tosh to Stick Figure, even some Sublime, man. Gotta love that West Coast Long Beach sound. And the reggae just does something for me and puts me in a good mood. It puts me in a relaxed mood. Just really allows me to kind of chill out. And that's a tough one too, because I think you guys probably are similar in this. Different moods require different sounds, and it just depends how it is on any given day. It could be hip hop, like Static's been playing some great hip hop coming into our mastermind group, man. Some what's his name from Gangstar? I'm drawing a blank.
Guru?
Guru, yes, I love, man.
When did I put Guru on?
Well,
you like Guru? Okay, yeah, I didn't put Guru on yet.
But it just kind of reminded me of that vibe that I think it was not this week, but last week, of just that. It's like jazzy, just hip hop, man. I love that style too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, it's definitely in the ska punk vein. That music, man, always gets me in a tremendous mood. Like, it's just infectious. And I'm bouncing down the street with my recovery dog Louie, singing like the mighty mighty boss tones at the top of my lungs, and people are looking at me like I definitely relapsed, which I not. So that's my jam.
Man,
Yeah, I always find this stuff so interesting, because I think I got to learn to maybe treat myself better with this, because I'm always responsible for everybody else's music.
Yeah.
And I could really soundtrack anything and anybody, and like pick the music for other people. But for me, it's like I don't fine tune it as much. So I gotta do that for myself more.
Yeah.
We got some people answering too. I asked in the chat.
Toby Mac's album, Eye on It.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
Jason, what's yours?
Dude, I'm like racking my brain over here. I love you guys' picks. I'm like I don't know. My musical tastes are so all over the map. I mean, I've had people tell me that, like, if they have to be in an hour car ride with me, that they get musical whiplash.
I love it.
But dude,
Leon Bridges, yeah.
I know that's funny, and I'm only bringing this up because we talked about sad cure. There's also like really, really happy cure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
some of the happiest damn music I've ever heard in my life. Like, oh, dude,
Why can't I be
Doing
you?
the Unstuck and Friday I'm in Love. It's like, just so bubbly.
Tremendous.
It's totally bubblegum.
Tremendous.
And then
All tremendous.
Boys Don't Cry.
I really
That's a good one, too.
I really dig old school soul, old school
Awesome.
R&B, like
Yeah.
back in the day, like, Al Green, Marvin Gaye, and then disco too.
I love disco.
Yeah, dude. And then
Yeah.
like today, I was rocking out for like an hour and a half at work listening to
Motown.
I started up with I looked up that song "Pump Up the Jam" by Technotronic, and then I just let it roll.
Pump it up.
So I was listening to like "Whoop, There It Is" and
Tag team.
Oh, you went.
Dude, yeah,
Dude,
tag
it was
team.
for it.
full send. I was listening to all sorts of this crazy, like, 90s dance music, and I don't know, man. I just like it all. But anything like that's really just upbeat, that'll literally, you can't help but have it pick you up. Like if I'm in a sad mood, I'll be like, shut that shit off, because that's killing my sad vibe right now.
It's funny you mention that too, because I tend to curate playlists of all different styles, and that's what I'll use. It's like some days it's the old crooner stuff, some days it's the Cure and Depeche Mode. Like all those bands will live in the same section, and then I'll go into the funk and Motown depending on the mood. And the funniest upbeat Cure song is "Why Can't I Be You?" It's the second cut on "Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me," because it comes out of nowhere, and even Robert Smith is acting silly when he's singing it, and you can just be like, you're like, what just happened? Like, you're like, how did this happen? Just horns? This is like, anyway, I go on about the Cure.
The song that I've got now stuck in my head is "Bop" by Hanson. That song,
no,
right? Come on,
no.
There you go.
I love you, but I just can't.
You know what's
I'm all in on
what's
it.
really sad, Charlie, is I can actually, like, per syllable, I can sing that fucking song. and people look at me like it's the weirdest shit, because it's been 30 years almost.
Yeah, it reminds me though. I remember going to prom when I was in high school with my girlfriend at the time, and we were in a convertible, just listening to that. And it was so anti, because I was, it was Nirvana, and it was, Pearl Jam, and it was, that's the music that I, tied my identity to at that time very securely, and and she loved this song from Hanson. We're just blasting it at the top of and it's just this great memory. So I think music, if nothing else, is very emotional, and I have this emotional memory of that song.
You just reminded me of another dark one, dude. Some Alice in Chains. There's nothing like putting some Alice in Chains on if you're just feeling
100%.
I love them still, but I can only do so much, especially if we're talking about the older, like the really or the really darker side of Alice. And I mean, that went through obviously all the albums. They had some deep dark tracks, but I used to slam a lot of dope to that shit. So I mean, I can only do a couple, and then
like
I start feeling weird, like I can feel my arms wigging out, and I'm like, all right, I'm done. Get the chills. But no, I thought of one, like probably my pinnacle right now lately, Bill Withers, dude. Like, Bill Withers has some of the most uplifting shit that I can. Yeah, right now I would think if I had to pick one on the top, it would be like some Bill Withers, man.
That's why I love Christmas music. It just, how can you not be in a good mood when you hear Christmas music? Like,
that's great.
Just, you're just happy. So
I love it with the kids. I love doing the Christmas music with the kids and singing along in the car and stuff. Like, those are great memories, because that's stuff you don't do usually during the year, right?
Absolutely.
Which is, this eclectic mix that we're all talking about. This is why I absolutely adore 89.3, the current here in the Twin Cities, public radio music station, which is just the best, because you'll hear Bill Withers, and then you'll hear Leonard Cohen, and then you'll hear, Aretha Franklin, and then you'll hear Leon Bridges, and you'll hear, everything in between, The Cure, and it's just such a great eclectic mix. You get all of it.
Yeah, they don't bow down to any genre on that channel. That's for sure.
That guy's mentioning some cool stuff right now.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
This is a Superman, and so I actually, part of what I do, I mean, I still do music full time, but I also, last few years, I work with at-risk youth programs and all these different youth clubhouses all over the New York area. And we work with 2 indigenous tribes. We work with the Shinnecock tribe in Long Island, and we work with the Mohawks up in near Messina, New York. Their place is amazing, because they're actually in Messina, New York, Ontario, and Montreal. So when you're inside, you can actually jump from border to border and nobody gets mad at you. And I think I've heard this artist, that guy, because we were doing a program with some of the young people, and they were doing a traditional dance, and the drumming was like mixed with DJ beats, but it was all the traditional drum grooves. And I really love that hybrid stuff. So it's
I'm in on that.
There's a fun little fact about indigenous drumming. The actual backbeat that we pull into a lot of the music in this country comes from that drumming. A lot of people will just talk about the blues and they talk about Afro-Cuban grooves and all this stuff. But when we think about the backbeat, which is that in all of the rock music and everything, that's where it's actually pulled from.
That's amazing.
It's not necessarily pulled from the islands or African grooves, where a lot of our rhythm and our syncopation comes from too. Everybody's influence is all in our music now, but that backbeat, they've been tracing that all over the world.
That's amazing.
It comes right from here before the rest of us even showed up.
That's amazing.
For sure. That reminds me of like Creedence Clearwater Revival. Everybody thinks that's like a bayou, like Louisiana kind of like swamp sound, and they were from California, you know. So just because it sounds like it's got this feeling that sounds like it should be from there, don't mean that's where it's from, right?
And everything borrows. I'm just a big proponent, and people should really reveal their influences and learn where their things come from. And when you borrow something artistically, please remind people who brought it first and appreciate everybody's ancestors, because we all have ancestors one way or another. And
true that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So let me do a quick time check here. We got about 5 minutes. Let's go around, man, and let's just have some close it up a little bit. You want to add some encouragement, some thoughts, whatever we want, and let's start there.
And maybe throw some recovery resources. I know we want to throw some of those out. So if you got recovery resources you all want to shout out too, that'd be great.
Yeah. I guess I'll just say this, man. I am grateful to have found a new way to live, and I'm grateful to be a part of this show. Anybody who's listening to this now, or if you watch it in the future, I just want you to know, like, you're not alone, even if you think you are. And I'm very easy to find, like super easy to find. You see my name right there. Jason Rudine. I'm on all the socials. You can find me, no problem. And I try to be available. So if you need someone to talk to, you need anything, man, just let me know, because we do this together. Somebody did it for me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a bunch of other people that were selfless. So I would try to be available to people if they need help. So just want to let you guys know you are not alone. If you need help, hit me up.
It's good, man. At Fear is a Liar. You can see the ticker down there, guys. We'll leave all these. You can see them as well to follow on.
That's an amazing tag too. Fear is a Liar. That is awesome. I was typing it today. I'm like, this is awesome.
It is tremendous.
Oh, thanks.
I'll go. So I could list gratitude all day, but I want to point out a big piece of gratitude I've had since March 2020 is for recovery to find a foothold in technology even further. Zoom, Clubhouse, because it's bringing us together that we might have not ever met. And this ties into, like, what do we do when we're alone? I have at least a dozen alcoholics and addicts that I could just text, be like, yo, you want to jump on Zoom, and call impromptu hangs. Technology in this aspect has been so amazing to bring recovery to a new level. And I'm so grateful for it, because it elevated my program. It brought me closer to people. I'm just everything that's happening amazing in my life now is because of recovery and how it expanded in this format. People could talk about the pandemic. There's things that definitely bad happened during all this. But I have to be grateful that all the greatest things in my life so far somehow have happened these past 2 years. So I'll leave it this way. It's resources. Yes, my name is also cruising there. I recover very out loud on my social media Instagram account, which is the Static is Noise one. Oh, if you want to know more about how I got sober or people to meet, if you're new in this, please just hit me there, and I'll connect you to whoever I can connect you to. Shane and I have a Clubhouse group on Mondays, noon East Coast time. I guess that's 9 a.m. West Coast time, and everybody else could do their math in the rest of the world. And we talk about recovery there. It's not as strict as going to a traditional meeting. It's a nice way to get a buffet of recovery and a little taste test. And I'm always here to talk. I'm with that vibe. You need it. I'm here to talk about it. So find me on the socials.
Oh, absolutely. I'll jump in. For me, people to know that meaningful and enduring recovery is absolutely possible. It's not always perfect, but it is absolutely worth it. And recovering out loud allows us to tell other people that it's possible. And our stories matter. They matter so much. Your story is going to hit people that my story never will, which is why we share so many of your stories on our podcast. And I know Shane does the same thing, right? We're sharing these stories because they're meant to hit people in a way that ours can't, right? So just know that recovering out loud makes a huge difference in people's lives. And that's how we identify, connect, and realize that we're not alone, and that meaningful recovery is absolutely possible and 100% worth it. The resource I'd shout out to is Transitions Daily. We go to dailyaaemails.com. There's just a ton of resources there. You can sign up for daily emails. That'll give you all the meditations. There's online 12-step groups. There's just a plethora of resources out there for you at dailyaaemails.com. And be blessed and be well, everybody.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I love it. And folks could obviously find the podcast, right? The Way Out podcast on iTunes, Spotify, any of the major platforms, right?
Right. Yeah.
Indeed.
And also, like, as far as resources go, I didn't name any because I know way too many. So if you want to know about resources, again, just hit me up.
Yeah. Well, I will. I'll kind of tie it up here, and then we'll get on our way for tonight. I just want to thank you guys for being here tonight, gentlemen. It's been awesome just to hang out and just have some fun, man. Like, I think this is such a great example of being able on a Friday night, for a couple of hours, get together and just conversate, chat, talk, and have some fun, and in the process be of service as well. I'll kind of piggyback on some of the resources too. Transitions Daily is great. There's so many resources there. I'd highly recommend that one. You can also go to thatsoberguy.com. We have a bunch of resources there. If you go to thatsoberguy.com/meetings, we have a bunch of meetings there. And then Static and I, like Static mentioned, we have our Monday Clubhouse meeting at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern time. And man, just like Charlie said, you matter, your stories matter. We're all in this together. And when we come together and we talk about it and we share with each other, man, there's just such strength in that. So, just remember, if anyone's struggling, don't give up, man. We only lose when we give up. When we keep going and we keep trying and we keep doing the best we can do, man, that's when good things happen. God works. And I love it, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity to do this today, guys.
Totally.
Tremendous.
It's been awesome meeting you dudes, man.
Yeah.
Static and Shane,
Agreed.
man. It's been a pleasure.
This has been amazing.
I've known this guy forever.
and hopefully, this was kind of like our first run at this, and we're just kind of learning as we go. And maybe, hopefully in the future, we'll be able to do something, another thing like it. And we just get a little better each time. So I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely learn how to comment on this.
and absolutely, I'll echo what everybody else said. Absolutely reach out to me. And if there's anything I love to do, it's talk recovery. So.
Love it. I'm going to eat some tacos, man.
Me too.
My family's bringing me home Sancho's tacos right now, so I'm excited.
Color me jealous. Color me jealous. So hungry.
So good.
Comfort my sick.
Bye, everybody. Be well.
All right, fellas. Much love, guys.
See you guys later.
Later.